Hey everybody, welcome back to another Volition stream. Today we're going to be doing a dev talk. It's been a little bit since we did the last one. But hi, I'm Josh Stinson, the video editor and stream czar, producer, something here at Volition. And today on the couch we've got...
Yeah, I'm Chris Dubois. I'm one of the EA's environment artists working at Volition.
And over in the corner in the control room we got...
Hey everybody, Mike Watson here, Senior Community Developer for Volition. I'll be moderating chat and feeding any questions to Josh, so if you have them, ask them in chat and I will pass those along. In the news, we did release a fix for Saints Row 4 re-elected on Xbox Game Pass PC. So the achievement for storing a boss locally is now available. So that's all done, and then work is still going on the Saints Row 2 patch. We made a lot of progress. Hopefully have some more news to share about that soon.
All right, thanks, Mike. So yeah, if you have not seen these streams before, when we do dev talks, we talk to just do a one-on-one with somebody from the studio, kind of talk about what they've done here in the studio, how they got here, their history with the industry, and also just at the end we usually just talk about what video games they're playing. So we'll do that at the end there. But yeah, how long have you been working for Volition?
Not counting a small gap in employment since 2006, February.
Okay, so what was the first... Was SR2 the first game you worked on then?
No, SR1.
2006, SR1. Man.
Yeah. I interviewed for QA, I think it was October of 2005, and got the call in January because we had gotten extra time on the project. I think it was originally planned for a launch window in probably January or February or something like that. And then I think we got an extra 6 months. And so they're like, okay, we need to get some more people in to help finish it out. And so I came in the first week of February to help. They were already doing 50, 60 hours in QA. And I think that the devs themselves were long crunching.
Yeah. So when you... interviewed here, were you interested in working in games, or was it just this seems like this is just a job I can do?
It was a little sort of a happenstance. It wasn't the first pick. It was I had finished college a few months before and was sending out resumes and had come back here where my parents lived and where I grew up, and was just I need to find work, and they had heard that Volition was hiring for QA testers, and it's okay, well, I enjoy video games and I have a good sort of analytical and problem solving skill set, so it's okay, I can try that out. And didn't even know Volition actually was stationed in Champaign.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I mean, up until maybe 5 years ago, we didn't even have a sign on the building.
Yeah, that's true. So, we didn't.
Unless you knew someone, it was really hard to know that Volition was here because we were invisible.
Yeah.
And so then it's okay, let's give it a shot, and maybe it can turn into something more, because I had other people at college that were in the game department, because I was there for media arts and animations, which would go towards cinema, TV, those kind of things. And but they were fairly applicable skills. So it's building environments and working with 3ds Max or Maya, working with 3D models. You just have to work in low poly or lower standards for your textures and your model sets. So it's okay, I just need to learn how to not build high poly assets.
Right. We've had you on stream in the past. Several years ago, I believe you were on stream for this. We did a speed run of Gat Out of Hell.
Yes. I think it was a couple weeks after launch or something like that. Or maybe longer than that.
No, it was when I started doing the streams. So I want to say 2016.
Yeah.
We may have had you participate in a speed run of Gat Out of Hell. I'm trying to remember who else was on stream. It was another QA person.
Might have been Ryan Mansfield.
Yeah, it was Ryan.
Yeah, because we needed someone else to be the sort of the commentator while I was doing the speed run.
Yeah.
Because I want to say I had at least still been doing some GAT stuff or maybe moved on, but it was still recent enough in my memory that like doing a speedrun on it was not like already past like sort of like comfort where like, okay, I need to get back into like practice for it.
Right. Yeah, it was just I was always impressed, like, back then when I first started talking to you and stuff, just, like, how many things you remembered and stories you remembered from, like, the QA you did on, like, SR, you know, like, not even just Scout of Hell, but, like, our older Saints Row games, like, before that. And, like, do you still have, do you still remember some of that stuff?
I certainly have a peculiar memory about things, and yeah, there is probably a decent amount that I've either forgotten or at least stored in much long-term memory where like someone could probably make me recall it and be like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
It kind of varies. Like SR2 probably has the cleanest memory just because I was on that from start to beginning. Like with the exception of like I think a month or two, like I was on the DLC for SR1 for a little bit, and then when we were starting to actually get QA for pre-pro for SR2, there was 4 people on the project that had moved over, and then a couple of them got promoted up or out of the department into other parts of the company.
Yeah.
And they were wanting to bring in new testers that were interested in leading eventually. And so they were taking a poll for like, okay, whoever you are interested in actually doing that and be able to kind of get your feet wet here in a place that's a little bit more sort of like at ease and bring you in slowly.
Right.
So I came in that second wave after that where we were trying to fill in a couple of spots. But that was like 2.5 years of development that I was there, because I was there until the very last like patch and DLC went out.
Oh wow, okay. Jeez. What was doing QA for SR2 like?
It was better than SR1. It was a little bit more structured because like for SR1 things were kind of like, okay, you come in at 9 o'clock and then you leave when they tell you to leave.
Yeah.
And at the very least for SR2 it was like, okay, you come in at 9 o'clock and you're going to be here until 10 o'clock. Or if it's going to change, they'll let you know. So at least we had a little bit more stability, but like in the last 9 months, I was doing like 80-hour weeks.
Oh, geez. I mean, yeah, I've heard that SR2 was like a kind of a crazy time, like developing here.
In some ways, like I know people probably disagree with me. Like I felt like SR1 was like more intense and worse. Like 80 hours for 9 months is certainly not fun and not easy, but like maybe it's just because of I had gotten used to it, or like things were a little less sort of like stressful with it, because SR1 was the first open world game we had made, and we were learning a lot of stuff on how to be able to get things to stream in and in a reasonable amount of time, so that like we didn't have to like you ghost and pause while you're driving through. And making sure that we can get a good frame rate, because that was one of the struggles we had up until the end. There was a lot of sort of Hail Mary passes near like the last couple of months where like we still don't have the frame rate up to where we want, and some very, very smart programmers has like, let's use these things, which just created a complete nightmare for QA. Like there were some things where we just had to do physical like brute force testing of like test each location every 2 meters for all these things, and like there was a couple times where like I put in 100-hour week on SR1 where
I just remembered something. I'm trying to remember if this was a story I heard here, because it's something I heard a long time ago. I don't remember which game it was. It was one of the earlier Saints Rows, I think. Wasn't there some really, I don't know if you worked on it, I remember hearing that there was like a really weird issue where basically you're just trying to like let the game run for a really long time to see like, oh, were there memory leaks? Would the game crash if you let it? Yeah. Was it here where there was like a really weird issue where there was a constant crash, and it turned out it was just like due to white noise from a Kinect that was connected or something like that? God, I'm trying to remember what this story was.
If it was here, I'm not familiar with this story.
I'll have to ask around, because it was a really weird story.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. if it was related to the Kinect, if we did have one set up, which I think we did, it was never set up in any of the main rooms except for maybe one of the compliance testers, because for the most part, our games didn't interact with Kinect, so the general sort of testing team didn't have to worry about that. Mm-hmm. I know we had a special room for that like motion type of stuff because it needed a little bit more space. You had to stand up, do gestures with it. I think compliance may have had to plug it in to make sure it worked.
Yeah. When you were working on QA for these earlier Saints Row titles, were there any like really, really strange problems that took a really long time to figure out? Were there like any issues where like the reason why the problem was cropping up was like a really bizarre case?
There are always like some very oddball ones. Like a lot of it tends to like we don't get necessarily like all the answers from the devs and like, okay, this is exactly what happened. A fun one that I enjoyed on SR1 was we had a limit of 40 items that could be stored into memory, and so if you ended up having a full inventory of food or drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, because you had 4 slots, and then did a save like 10 times, it would crash. Because there was some hard code limit in there based off of like your play session and how many saves, and that just kept counting it up and up and up because it was just storing, I think, all that information and just like boom. And I forget what I was testing. It was either saves or interface or something that because I wasn't testing that one thing in particular. I was just like I crashed suddenly while I'm doing this sort of other extraneous testing, and it's like, okay, well, let's try to reproduce it. And then I found out what it was. Like, probably the worst one that I had was like a 3-hour reproduction on a multiplayer bug.
Okay, I was gonna ask if you touched any of the like multiplayer stuff.
For SR1, I actually was mostly on multiplayer. Like I got started on art testing for Stillwater, the actual like main city, but then they moved me over to doing the art testing for our multiplayer maps. Okay,
yeah, I was about to ask like with when working in QA, like if there's always like certain people who are always assigned to test certain types of things, or if it's like at a certain point it's just like, okay, we need you to work on this stuff now.
It will depend on what your strengths are. Like, for me, since they knew I already came from an art background because of college, they immediately sort of put me into the art testing spot, and I've been largely relegated in most cases to art testing throughout the time that I was in QA. The only main difference was when you're early on in a project, like I was with SR2, there you just test everything, and that was generally the most beneficial for me because it allowed me to expand my skill set, because otherwise you do kind of get pigeonholed. Like once they find like what you're good at, you kind of stay there until maybe you get to go to a different project, and then maybe spread out when it's like not like crunch time, as it were, and like we need you and your talents here to be able to do this. And so I was able to get a lot of experience doing compliance and testing gameplay and multiplayer from SR1. So I was much more rounded than some testers just because I got to have those opportunities. And then as a lead, it's a lot less like, okay, you're testing this thing and more leading a team, so it's a lot of delegation and a lot of you need to know information and be able to speak with confidence about, okay, you're going to do this, or you have some bug that has come up and the QA tester doesn't know exactly what it is, so you have to help them out. Okay.
So now you said you're a EA, you're environment artist. When did you switch? When did you change to that?
Full time, I switched during the sort of the tail end of AOM.
Okay, yeah, that's because I remember like you came by and said like, oh hey, like I applied for this and like I got the position, but I was trying to remember when during AOM that was. I was kind of thinking it was like the midway point, but
it kind of feels like the midway point because I think I was technically on the AOM project for about a year and a half ish, almost 2, because once we got done with like main game AOM, like there was, okay, we're going to roll up for DLC, and so I moved over to the DLC project, and it was still technically like AOM stuff, and we didn't really leave that for, I think it was another like 6 months.
Okay. Also, we have a question from the chat from a person I'm very familiar with, whose name is Infinite Butts 420, asking, "What's art testing in QA?"
Well, to I guess put it succinctly, for art testing, it's covering any actual like visual art asset. So it can be UI, or it can be actual like character models. In our case, also like clothing assets, the building, the environment. Broadly, a lot of times people think of it as the environment, but it actually encompasses everything. It's just the environment.
All visuals, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In our case, the environment tends to be the most time-consuming aspect because we have open-world games, and so as a result, we have to go around every square inch to make sure that there are no holes to fall through, or you can't pass through a door that's not supposed to be allowed. Anything with you being able to see like outside the world in the distance, making sure everything's loading in correctly, like that is the bulk of our testing. But we'll go in there and make sure that, to the best of our abilities, we have millions of combinations. But customization is like the other sort of like
I can imagine.
brunt of
I
our
can
testing.
imagine customization for like SR2 and 3 and all that stuff. It's like. Like I figured this is probably the case, but like when working here, I've just thought, oh God, like in older Saints Row games, because like there have been times where I've had to go back to like 3, just because it's like for like Mike when he's doing a social media post, like like it's X goofy holiday, it'd be really good if like there's like National Pancake Days, and I was like, we need like the pancakes from 4, eating those, and so it's like I have to go to like pull up like a final like dev build so I can use the console and capture tools and all that to get whatever we need. And sometimes we need a specific outfit. I just think like, oh God, when you're testing all that stuff, do you just have to like do every single combination of clothes or as close as you can get to every different type of like outfit that's feasible?
Yeah, we're never going to have enough manpower to be able to hit all permutations.
Yeah.
So the way we handle it is we have a sort of a two-pronged approach. We have what you might call like grill testing, where we have a console command that's set up that runs by default when we launch a game that just randomizes everything.
Okay.
So in general, most people, once that's set up, will run with that so that they can catch like just wacky combinations that the team may not end up running across. And then we have the concentrated testing of, okay, we just need to make sure in general, as best as we can, like everything works. And that's make sure for the extreme body sizes that everything, like nothing clips with each individual piece. And then you try to hit all of the overlaps and make sure like the shirts and the pants don't have any weird clipping during those. And then you have to make sure for the male and female, make sure that like, okay, on the male model everything's fine, but on the female model things aren't, or vice versa, because those models are different and you can get different issues. And like I've had multiple times like you have a bra on and then you have a shirt on and then you scale it up to 100% like muscle or something, and suddenly the bra straps are clipping through the shirt and stuff like that, because we have so many overlapping pieces. SR2 was definitely like the most intensive, just because we had 3 layers of clothing on top of like just like the underwear too. So it's like it's a nightmare. I did the early testing, but then we had someone else that was doing the dedicated. Once we were in like the end of production, because it's just like months and months of testing.
Yeah, because I remember when we were years ago when we were doing like the break the build style streams for like 2 and 3 and 4. We were getting like pretty like mid-production builds, so there's still a lot of like bugs and stuff. I remember just trying to do customization like half the time. If you like you would put a shirt on first and it would look fine, and then you would switch to like a female and back to a male, and suddenly like the shirt would be clipping like through the chest only. And because
because it would change some more for the female figure, but then it wouldn't undo that when it's swapped back.
Yeah, and like there are always some really interesting looking visual bugs with muscles bulging from only certain parts of shirts and stuff.
Yeah, and then like you start seeing, like they don't have like the center core sometimes because they only have like limbs, and so you see the waist popping out, but nothing else because there's no no torso.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to like what you do now, because we keep going back to QA.
Like, reminiscing about the good old days. I did QA for 10 years, so it's hard not to talk about that.
It's a big portion, but like you switched over to environmental artist during AOM's production.
Yeah.
And that's more applying like what you went to school for, I'm sure.
Yes. That was like really exciting because I was finally able to like exercise some of the stuff I did. A lot of it then was since I was coming into the tail end production. I'm trying to remember, like we got a couple of extensions, but it was sort of like 9 months to a year when it all came down of production, and the game was well into where it was. So a lot of the assets were already created or already being outsourced. So a lot of it was just you have a library, go have fun.
Yeah. Also, we just got something else from the chat. They want me to ask you if you ever wanted to port Descent to the Sega Saturn.
Is the Saturn and the Descent the same like generation?
Yeah. Because I mean, like we have a Sega Saturn dev kit here still, and it's in my office.
I remember you showing it to me.
Yeah, it's been in my office for a couple years now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have something for like some type of potential port for Descent, like just barely or something.
You would know more than me. That definitely predates me.
Yeah, because it's maybe some stream we're gonna have to like see if it's okay to show like that stuff, because like there's definitely nothing that we can run, but like we have like the dev kit. We have like some handwritten notes about Descent on the Saturn or something like that. I'll have to take a look at that stuff again.
I mean, Kulos was there, so he might remember.
I'll ask him sometime. Yeah.
It's either that or like Adam Pletcher or Helva, because like they go way back too.
Oh yeah.
There's a few that we still have around that like go back to like the starting and founding of Volition practically.
Yeah, I remember. I'm gonna have to see if I can find that handwritten note I brought up, because I'm pretty sure like whoever wrote it, like their name is like signed on it or something, so we can see who wrote it maybe. See if it's somebody who's still here.
Possibly.
I mean, there's a chance.
Yeah, like I said, we still have a few people.
Yeah.
And some of them have left and come back.
Yeah, totally. That seems like a thing that happens like fairly often here. People go somewhere else and they come back here. I mean, that happened to me once already.
Yeah, happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah, you started working as an environmental artist on AOM, and we actually have like a ton of images of work you did for AOM. So if we want to switch over to this PC, we can start showing some of your work off here.
Yeah, try to scrounge up what I could.
Yeah, this was the first like dozen or so screenshots we have here. Like you got these screenshots like what, today?
Yes, yeah. I had a lot of stuff from when I was working, and then I needed to clear out hard drive space, sadly, and it got lost. Like I thought I had archived all of that stuff, and apparently not.
Yeah,
so,
it's
like
I don't know about you, but like AOM was the first video game I ever worked on. But like coming back here and even like, close to the tail end of like working on AOM, it's like, oh God, I should like archive the stuff I worked on. Also just like archive all the final like files and like, source videos I had for everything, just in case we have to go back or somebody needs something for some reason.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh God, I was like nose down working so hard that sometimes you just make like folders just named new folder, and I'm just like, what is this folder? What's in here? And then you have to like try and organize this huge mess of like 1,000 files, and it told me that I need to be a lot more organized for our current project.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that I'm usually a pack rat, and like I still have my QA screenshots from like SR4.
Oh wow. Yeah, I remember you gave me some of those for some Break the Build stream we did, I think.
Yeah, and they're just all sitting there, like, for, like, SR3, I might still have some of those, and they were all just, like, because I was doing customization testing on a lot of 3, they're just, like, all the customization bugs that I ever found.
Yeah.
And, like, 4 is just, like, all of the environment bugs, which I was a lead on for most of the time.
Yeah.
So I didn't have as large of a stockpile.
Yeah, I think I have some screenshots from AOM, just like some really goofy, funny bugs that maybe we'll show at some point. But yeah, page up and page down to move through the images here. We have like 100 images here.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we
so
have a lot.
You worked on certain parts of the city in AOM. What parts were you responsible for?
Yeah, I almost feel ashamed that we don't have a map. I could show it.
Oh yeah.
But I'm like, I know it internally as like D block and E block, but they are the modern districts of Seoul, and if you look at it, it's broken down into aesthetically different themes, and so there's modern, ultra modern. There's the market or sort of more traditional old town style, and then there is the sort of the temple area, and then the shipping area and the docks.
Oh yeah.
And so we had a team, depending on the day, on the year and whatnot. We had 5 or 6 people on the project, and we all were assigned one district, basically one aesthetic.
Okay.
And it was really crazy. I was like, okay, I'm going to come in and help out. And like I've been here for 10 years, but I'm essentially an entry level artist, and they're like, you now own all of modern.
That's nuts.
I'm like, okay, sure, this is awesome, but are you sure you want to give me all this responsibility? Like, thankfully, like a lot of the assets were already together. But the sort of the thing that I had to sort of work with as my challenge was, this was one of the districts that had not really gotten a lot of like personal attention. Like, it had gone through a lot, like, the city had gone through a lot of iterations and a lot of changes, and this place used to be quite a bit different from when I moved in. And so all we really had for the modern stuff was sort of like the buildings and a few things. Yeah. Because they had focused on making sure that the market got all like the traditional like Korean assets and signs and stuff to sort of fill out that vibe, and then making sure for like ultra modern you got all those like nice high tech things, all the holograms. And I was kind of left with, okay, like I don't have very long on the project, so I can't make a lot of like new requests because we're already kind of full up on our outsourcing budget. And so I kind of had to either kit bash or work with what I had. So I managed to squeeze out a few new assets from my area to try to help sell. Like, modern feels a little bit different from everywhere else. But
by kit bashing, you mean like taking existing assets, kind of putting them together to try and make something new out of them?
Yeah, trying to do something unique with it. Because of the way our tools work, it's actually a lot easier to be able to bring a bunch of disparate assets and then bring them together into something unique and different. And that was actually where I had a blast with it, because it's just like, okay, I have a big library. It's kind of like I have a bunch of Legos. Let's assemble it into interesting ways.
Yeah. So can you explain like what basically like what is the like start to finish workflow for this type of project for you? Like, because like you mentioned that basically you had the assets, so you're not like, for the most part, you're not creating assets. You're placing them and arranging them and all that. Okay.
Yeah. When I came on, they had already mapped out the roads and the buildings, so none of that was really going to change. It was, okay, let's go into the ground level and fill it out with props and do what we can to make things sort of feel unique and interesting. So this one came in when we got to do some polish, and it went from being kind of a generic building to being a casino. Okay. And this is actually inspired by an existing building in Seoul.
Oh, okay,
so
cool.
I really liked the rainbow style that I had seen there, and it's like, that's a really cool aesthetic. Yeah. And so a number of the like early images are things where we got to go in and do a little bit extra time. We got like 3 extra months to just like go crazy and like elevate everything a little bit more. So I was able to go in and start putting in more dense objects and be able to sort of give things more life. The other aspect to the modern district was that it was under construction, because it had been attacked by Legion, and so you can see kind of the scars throughout the city, and this was one of the concentrated areas where they wanted to have a lot of the construction, because you can see it throughout the city. Oh yeah. But this was like kind of a 50-50, like you would have your regular buildings that were already finished, and then the buildings that got attacked by Legion, they're all under construction. Right. And so I had a lot of fun putting these things together, trying to kind of make little puzzles and utilize our traversal mechanics,
Yeah.
all the jumping, the dashing, making sure that kind of felt fun with going through the city, because I wanted to
Right.
give that a really interesting flavor, since like this was going to be something that was different. My entire goal when I was putting it together was I want you to be able to go from rooftop to rooftop without having to go down to the ground and then go back up. Like if you fall, you fall and you can get back up. But if you wanted to go through all the rooftops in the modern district, you totally could without having to.
Yeah, everything's reachable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. And construction made it a lot easier because, like, if I needed to, I can put a crane out there with a little platform. I put the barges through there so you could ride on the barges to get to different places.
Yeah. Also, one side question we got from Bomb Bear in the chat asking, what was your favorite game to develop, to work on?
From a QA perspective, probably 2. I got to do a lot of stuff like that. It comes down kind of to a little bit less like the actual game and more like the sort of personal sort of experience, because that was the first time first time I got to be a lead, and so I got to go into the leadership and be able to sort of find out what I could do as a person and find where my comfort zone was, be able to push outside that, and be able to learn a lot more about like what I was and what I liked.
Yeah.
As development, like I really love AOM. Like all flaws aside, like especially like I kind of have to be a little biased because it was the first project I had to be an artist on. But I like art-wise, environment-wise, I had a blast working on it. And like for me, like of the games that we shipped, it's like even talking to the other like artists, like we're all really happy with the way it turned out. Like the style was really consistent, and we really liked like the vibrancy that it gave. And then we just got to really build a nice, densely packed, really interesting like city where like, there's these little things to explore. Like there's so much verticality here that you can just keep on like finding little cubby holes and places. Like it was such a fun game to just put together.
Yeah, and I do have to say like the whole under construction area with all these rooftops was like my favorite area to like capture in, because there was so much stuff on top of the rooftops that like you could hit it from a lot of different angles while capturing, and it looked pretty different. And I was just like, you know, whenever I wanted like some shot variety, it's like, ooh, I'll go up here.
Like this is a little like during the daytime, construction's a lot easier to see because at night you're not going to really get a lot of lighting.
This was also like a nice area to capture combat in, just because there's a lot of stuff. There was just verticality, and there was also like a lot of places where the enemies could take cover and stuff. Like, and having them on like staggered on a couple different levels was pretty nice.
This spot in particular I designed for one of the missions. This was the sniper reveal mission.
Oh yeah. I remember. This is exactly where I captured that sniper shooting.
Yeah, it was really funny this was a lot simpler when I put it together. It was supposed to just be like they show up one enemy, and then and so I had like very few guidelines of like do this. It was just like, hey, make sure to have these spots, and then I was like, okay, well I got everything else to sort of have fun with. So I turned it into my playground, went crazy with it, and the designer was like, we got to use this, and so we expanded the encounter.
Yeah, that's God. I knew I recognized, cause specifically like the crane going up.
Yeah.
Because I remember I would. Well, here I'll explain that in a second. We're getting some more questions too. Another question: do designers work with environment artists when designing a city, like for flow of gameplay?
We certainly try to. I know from past projects, like there's sort of a little bit of a give and take.
Yeah.
I know sometimes they can be more art driven, and then the mission designers will have to just kind of live with what it is and maybe like massage it a little bit. But definitely for like AOM and with the new tools that we have and like moving over into like future projects, we've been trying to do a lot more collaboration, making sure that design gets in there and be able to get what they're wanting, and then we can work with them and collaborate. And a lot of that's been like we've been too segregated in the past, and like let's bring both of our creativity and ideas together and be able to make something. And it's been doing a lot better, especially like when we were working on the DLC. Like that was where we really got to from like the very beginning. Not have a divide of like art's going to make something and the design just has to live with it, or design is going to make something and art just has to kind of figure out how to put it together. Like, we were working day to day together. Okay, like Boyton, who was doing like the main mission flow for it, he had what he wanted laid out, and then he passed it over to me, and I put in my ideas, and we'd go back and forth and massage things as he saw like really cool like things I was prototyping. He's like, I want to put that in there, and so it was definitely a much more back and forth kind of flow more recently.
Okay. Going back to this specific area, I remember capturing so basically like taking the mouse like right here, I think, or over here is where I put the snipe trooper for the cutscene that introduces the snipe trooper. I remember it's like kind of like behind the scenes thing of how like I captured those types of cutscenes. It was basically like, okay, I need, like I would spawn a snipe trooper, like there's a command to make them do like their fly-in, so they would come in from the sky with their jetpack and then do a flip and land, pull out the gun. But I needed them to pull out the gun right away and show the laser converging and then fire and then do like a reload. So I would basically have to I took whoever I was playing as, I hid them back here so that they would try and shoot me, but they couldn't actually hurt me because, like, even with the capture camera, if you got shot, there'd be a little bit of a camera shake.
Right.
And you don't want that camera shake when in a cutscene like that. So I was hiding here, so they were trying to take a pot shot at me, and I captured them firing their whole their entire magazine, and then use like the last shot so that they would go right into the reload animation. Like that's how goofy capturing stuff like that is. It feels like, oh, I should just be able to script this guy to just do this.
Right.
It's like, no, I'm just hoping that they try to shoot me in the head and they miss.
Yeah. I was really happy with the way this one turned out. Like, I thought I had gone too crazy with it.
Yeah.
And in the end, like I said, the mission designer really loved the space, and it turned out to be a really good spot for combat. Like, that ended up being kind of a running theme where, like, I would have fun, make a space, and then the designer would be almost regretful that they didn't get to use it because the space to the in the front there. Like, I did that one first, and there's no gameplay there. Like, I think maybe some like procedural gameplay will pop up.
Yeah.
But like a lot of designers were like, that would have been a really cool place. Like, I had not designed it as a sniper nest, but they were like, that would have been a perfect place.
Yeah.
Put the sniper at the top, you start at the bottom, and it automatically is already doing all the rising.
Yeah.
And so for flow and combat, it just like worked out really well. I wasn't even trying to do that. I was like, I just want to make something fun to traverse.
Yeah. We have one other question here from the chat from unknown username 12. When I first saw that and I just saw the X, I was like, is that a Kingdom Hearts name? This is something I personally can't answer, but maybe you know, and Mike can probably answer this too, asking, is it true that a PS3 port of Saints Row 1 was planned but scrapped?
Is it safe to talk about that?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've mentioned that.
Okay. Yes, it wasn't just planned. We were working on it.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't testing it, but we had some of the team testing it. We had PS3 dev kits in there, and we were working on it. I forget if we were actually doing the port of it or not, because the SR3 or the SR3, the 360 version had already long come out, and we were working on SR2 at the time. But like I think it was maybe 6 months or a year later, we were working on trying to get the PS3 port out within, I think, a year, but we were since it was the first time we'd worked with it, and the sort of struggles with the PS3 architecture is at this point very well documented. It was a lot of trouble, and so what ended up happening was we decided that if we continued, it was just going to take even longer to try to get it, and it would be too far of a window from the original release. So we just took everything that we learned, cut the project where it was, and then transferred that knowledge and that experience to the SR2.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure, because like I have a big box that's basically where I just keep like, oh, here's all the really old game archival stuff. And and I'm pretty sure I have some materials, like some burned like DVDs related to the SR3 port. I don't know if it's like a build or if it was just like some files for it or something, but it's I've got a couple discs of that.
Yeah, when we were working on it, the game was already finished, so like it may not have been like fully playable because of like whenever they were like trying to get it working and whatnot. But yeah, everything, like we didn't start on it until we'd already shipped for the 360.
Yeah. But what are some other areas here?
So yeah, this is the actual like sniper spot.
Oh yeah.
That I was talking about before, and then just sort of ground level. The railing was one of those like assets that I got to request. I was so happy.
Okay.
I was so happy about that because we had like 2, I think, railings for the city, and neither one of them really sort of had this like nice modern vibe that like felt like it belonged there. And it's like I really want that because we needed something for like the street side, because you'd be driving through and like one of the most recognizable things are going to be the sidewalks and what you have on the sidewalks to really sort of sell what the general theming of the district is. And that was one of my like big sort of things that I got to have, that and getting some new textures for the sidewalks.
Oh yeah, that was something I'd never really considered either until like you just brought it up just now. Like I didn't really know the flow is basically like that environment artists could make requests if they're like, oh, it would be cool if there was this. Hey guys, can you make it for me? For some reason that never came into my mind that's how that worked.
Yeah. Since we were focused on working on like the actual environment, we wouldn't have the time to be able to make our own assets. So a lot of times what we would do is we would make a primitive version of it, a quick rough of like, hey, this is what we're needing, these are the dimensions, and this is sort of, if there's anything in the silhouette that we want to make sure that comes across, and then we send that out to outsourcing so that we can then keep focusing on making the actual environment.
Yeah. We got another question from the chat from Herman Tofu saying, I love Agents of Mayhem. So the environment is set in Seoul, Korea. Where did the idea of transforming an existing city into a futuristic style come from? And what sort of thinking does the team need to bring in to create such a result? That's a big one.
Yes.
That's a big question.
Yeah, unfortunately, since when AOM was being put together during the pre-pro and early development, I was in QA, so I don't have a good visibility on like where it came from. I know like they were like going with the idea of a global sort of presence, where like we wanted to be able to have sort of places all over the map and be able to have different cities. And Seoul ended up, I don't know why that one was first. I'd have to ask Traff or Frank, one of the like head art directors, to be able to find out like what made them decide to pick Seoul for that. And because we were going with the sort of like G.I. Joe versus Cobra kind of Saturday morning cartoon thing, that automatically would elevate it to this sort of like kind of near future, like not like full future, but
not like full on sci-fi.
Yeah, it's just sort of like speculative, like not necessarily speculative, but sort of like cartoony speculative future. Because a lot of these things either can exist or may not be able to for like a century. But it's the idea of like, okay, it's going to be this sort of like cartoon version of the future in like 20, 30 years.
Yeah, you got to be able to have laser guns or else it's not G.I. Joe. So.
Right. And so it wasn't so much like deciding to sort of like transform Seoul into a futuristic city. It was that we were doing this G.I. Joe thing that you automatically are, okay, we're going to need to make this sort of more futuristic. And the idea was, I think, was kind of trying to blend a little bit of futurism with traditional sort of Korean aesthetics in this contemporary city.
Yeah. Yes. What are some other areas here? Because there's some. We have a lot of images to go through, and there's also some like really interesting stuff later that I really want to be able to get to.
So this is the sort of the back angle of the district, and the most fun that I had was building these buildings, the sort of mirror-like buildings
Yeah.
And they become kind of like the landmark of the district and sort of like the focal point of it. And then everything behind it is the rest of the district. So
Yeah.
it kind of gives a good view. Like when you look at the map, they basically gave me like a fifth to a sixth of the city. And and that was just like everyone got that like divvied up. It's just like you give someone who it's like I was a temp artist. Like and so I didn't have like seniority or anything.
Yeah.
It was like you own all this.
Yeah. Whoa.
So,
This was also another thing I captured a decent amount of stuff from for trailers and other videos, just because like there's like the mirror parts stick out further than the rest of the buildings, so you can kind of go in between them. So I had like a really cool shot of like Kingpin like diving between those.
oh yeah, we have like elevators that go up. So there's a lot of like fun silhouettes in here just because it's not a standard building.
Yeah.
But I had to be careful with it because it couldn't be like futuristic. It had to be like the idea was it was supposed to be the interpretation of like kind of pushing modern to the most extreme that you could take it.
Yep.
Without going futuristic. And
Yeah.
so like this was like it still feels relatively grounded without feeling sci-fi, but it feels foreign enough that that you feel it. Okay, yeah, this exists within this sort of exaggerated cartoon world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this might be the last one, and then it's like moving on to their stuff. So these things are some quick screen grabs that I had from when I was doing work with putting together roughs for a couple of the buildings. We almost didn't get it, and I was like, this is really cool. I really want it.
Yeah.
Like in the further part of the block, there are these 3 buildings that got directly hit. If you watch the little cartoon that we have at the beginning, there's some Legion beams that come through and carve through some buildings, and a lot of the vibe that we just didn't get to because of time and sort of budget sort of restraints was the idea that we wanted to have like parts of the city just like had not fully recovered from the attack, and where there's actually holes through where they had attacked. And so this was kind of our little chance to do that, and I really wanted that to happen because it was this really cool idea. And on the ground level, it makes some really interesting shadows and shapes because you look up and you see like there's this like crescent shape, and you're like, oh wow, and you can see through it. So,
this is one of my favorite buildings, just having the parts of it like carved through. It was like when I first spotted that when it got put in the city, I was just like, oh man, that's so cool.
So, and I took it this far to rough it in for them, and then we handed it out to outsourcing, and they came back, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
like, they did a great job.
It was great
on
looking.
It. So.
Okay, so there's a lot of other screenshots here that are areas that for people who played Ages of Mayhem aren't gonna recognize at all. And that is, so we were like, there was some DLC that came out for the game, but we had plans for some other like bigger DLC things, and you were working on a new area for one of these, right?
Yes. Did you want to show like the prototype video first? That kind of gives the
you know what? Let's.
Like, I think that one.
Yeah, you can back out, and we'll.
I think that one will give a little nice sort of taste of what it was, because before it even existed, we were trying to kind of brainstorm what do we want to do for DLC. I don't know how it works for past projects since I was on QA, so I don't have that visibility. But like, we know we want to make some new content for our DLC. And
which video is it? That's the big one. Is it Mount Art?
Should be that one.
This one?
Yeah. Yeah, that one.
Okay.
And so we were trying to brainstorm, like, okay, what different things can we do? And it was like, the first one's going to come out in, I think it was like 3 months or something like that. Yeah. And we were like, AOM still hadn't shipped, so like we had finished working on our stuff, and we were in the process of like finalizing it, making it gold. And so we're like, okay, we need to start brainstorming, like, what can we make for the first big pack in like 4 or 5 months, 6 months at worst. And it's like, well, let's reuse what we had from Soul, but let's give it a new vibe. And one of the things I was working with that I really got excited with when we were brainstorming with George Sokol was, well, let's do a sort of ruined mountain, sort of a forest temple or forest village idea. And we could use a lot of our existing assets that were the temple pieces, because we had a lot of good temple pieces. And there's some really cool things that some of our guys made, and it's like, let's take that and like put it into a rundown space, and we can use it as a more sort of linear space, so we didn't have to worry about the open world aspect, and could really sort of put in a new vibe. And a lot of people weren't really sort of sold on the idea, like, can we really do a forest? Like, we've never done these sort of things.
Because there weren't any heavily forested areas in the base game.
So it's like, okay, we can do this. I was like, we can do this. And like, no one believed us that we could do it. And so it's like, okay, like, I'm just going to take the few days, take what we have, and just bash a whole bunch of stuff together and just get that feeling. Like, can we get the feeling that we want, which is just something run down, something that's been long abandoned that nature is reclaiming. Yeah. And so I just took all we had. Like, the funny thing is, AOM shipped with like 6 trees, like greenery. Yeah. So like we had I think like 3 or 4 trees and a couple of bushes or scrub, and that's all we had. And I built that entire thing with that and some vines. Man. And then just I desaturated a lot of the textures so that it felt a lot older. Yeah. And did some warping and some warbling of the geometry so it felt like things were kind of like falling apart or sagging. Yeah. And like once people saw that, like they were on board. They were like, okay, we can do this. Like we're gonna have to make it a little more performant because okay, like we can't go this crazy because the consoles will just bleed and cry. But the idea is like, okay, yeah, with the right optimizations, we can totally get this done. Yeah. And so that's where the first DLC pack ended up starting. Where it's like, okay, we're gonna do a mountain up in the distance that you could see on the vista in the skybox of the city proper, and we're going to have it up there, and you'd be going up through this old abandoned village into a temple that Legion had a secret base at. Okay, yeah. This was I remember seeing like a decent amount of like the DLC stuff in progress, but when I was here first time, I actually never saw this stuff. So this was like all new when you sent it to me yesterday. Yeah, this was like really early when we were like still brainstorming what could we do for this. And so I had done a bunch of different things. Like one of the things that I'd also done was like we wanted to do more dungeon stuff. So it's like I did a bunch of like dungeon experiments, and other people were doing like different experiments for different types of cities because we wanted to continue the idea of like globetrotting. Yeah. So, but this one was okay. We can do this within the budget because we don't have to make a whole lot of assets. Yeah. It's crazy like how different a feel it has from Soul though. Like I am also genuinely impressed by how it nails like this more heavily forested area. Yeah. Like it's crazy. But yeah, you have like a ton of screenshots like in progress, including that one very, very high res image. There you go. Yeah, if we... Yeah, this one was, like, I just did a top-down view of if you can hit F11 to make that full screen again. There we go. Yeah, this is stupidly high-res. Yeah, so the original plan for this area was that it was going to be, I think, 2 missions and a boss fight. Okay. So it was going to be linear, and so you'd be going through, like, the first half up to a mini-boss for the first mission, and then once you completed that, then the second half. And so it would end the first half at a boss fight in the village, and then you'd go up into the mountain into the actual temple part. And so all the temple stuff that we used in the city, I got to reuse those. And like the main new asset was a mountain that I think George had made for us. So I very liberally use that everywhere to like work in the skybox and the surround just to like make it feel like you were going up a mountain. Yeah, it's super cool seeing like all the top down view, because I know that's like a when like we worked on AOM, and this was something I didn't know, and I'm sure it's fairly common practice for like especially open world games and stuff, is like in the offices we had like big posters printed out that was just like top down like schematic of like the entire open world, and it was divided like even more like you were talking about how you were assigned a specific section that was just like, what was it, K, or I forget what letter it was designated or whatever, but it was just like seeing every like little city block had like its own like name, like title designation for it and stuff. It was really interesting to see like how
how much is broken down into each bit. So it's like something that like when you're just running around the game normally, it's like, oh, this is just a bus stop, and like there's like a title name, like a little outline section just for that because somebody's got to work on just that spot.
Yeah, it's like A block and like I said, E and F block.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would be remiss to not mention at the very end underneath that is the volcano secret base that you'd do the boss fight.
I do think I saw some of that. I do remember seeing some like volcano, like lava magma assets, and they looked really cool.
Yeah, we had Matt Curry. He was doing the lava shader for that, and it turned out really cool. Like he got a lot of the work in there so that in the places where it was starting to settle, it would start getting a little darker, and then in the more fluid spots, it'd be more warm and red and yellow. And it looked really good, and like he probably still had a little more work that he probably wanted to do for it, and it was still like, hey, like this is gonna be awesome.
I remember seeing that, going like, man, that looks awesome.
So, and these are some, I wouldn't say necessarily before and after, like. The area never got finished, but I was taking screenshots to be able to get an idea of like what it looked like when we were in that like beginning prototype phase, and then how it looked when we started getting art in there. And so like this was one of the spaces where like the lighters actually got to go in there and put in some of the environmental fog and the lighting, and really getting a nice good mood for it because you're going up in this like misty mountain.
Yeah.
So. You can kind of see like
look at that.
How things started to change, and this was Tim Watson. Like he did an amazing job, just like taking all these buildings, start really filling it like it's these old sort of ramshackle kind of homes that are out on the mountainside. Something
I'm curious about, like in that previous screenshot, you see the when it's first blocked out and much more basic buildings and all of that. Maybe this is a little bit of both, but like at a certain point, like if you're designing something like this, is there a point where it's like, okay, I'm going to draw out where everything is, or is there also just sometimes an element of like, what it would look like if I just put something right there? Like,
I think part of it kind of changes based off of the individual.
Okay.
For me, because our tools are really good at being able to do what we call 3D concepting. A lot of times I'll forego like doing a 2D sketch just because sometimes there's the sense of perspective and spacing between things that you just can't really feel out in a 2D sketch. I'll just go in here and start sketching with our primitives and be able to put a player down and be like, okay, I need this thing to be a little further away. These buildings are way too tight. We need to open it up for combat.
Yeah.
And you can get a real quick feel, and I can spend a couple hours roughing out just that sort of approximate layout just in our tools.
Oh man, yeah, because like I don't get to like come around like because our offices are split between 2 floors. I'm not down on the second floor as much, which is where like a lot of people are on the second floor.
Yes.
And so I don't get to see what they're doing as much. So there's like some tools we have that I still haven't seen people like actively using.
Oh, okay.
So like I mean, sometime maybe I should just come down and just see what you're doing. But yeah, that sounds really nice to me to just be able to kind of just like sketch like in game essentially. Just for how my brain works, that personally sounds like it would be like a way, like more, a better use of my time and like a much easier workflow to like figuring out how you actually want this stuff laid out. Man, look at this. That is nuts.
Yeah, and like this was one of the mini boss spaces. It simplified a lot. Like it had a lot of tiering and a lot of individual spaces, and it got simplified a fair bit where it became more sort of arena with some stuff along the side. So that it was it was a lot easier for combat to handle there because the AI would have a little bit of trouble, and it just ended up becoming a lot of problematic spots for you to be able to traverse because there was so much tiering. So
were there times when you were working on things and people came back on like, hey, like this area is like way too complex for our dudes and they keep getting caught in stuff and you had to like go and simplify stuff?
Yeah, it's that push and pull. Like I usually like when I'm working on a new space that I'm getting from design or maybe they don't have something, I'll go try to find out what they need, and then I'll like take it and then hand it over to them, or like grab them like, hey, like how are you feeling about this before we start moving it forward?
Okay, yeah.
And they'll give me advice of like, okay, we need to make sure there's some cover here, or need to keep things open. So I haven't so far had to do like complete overhauls yet, but there's definitely been like cases, okay, we need to do a little sort of massaging of spots. But sometimes we can get a really good sort of like first stab from design, and then it's just kind of like, let's art it up and interpret what they have into something a little bit more refined in terms of shape. So yeah, this is some like the really early stuff where there's not even any buildings or ground. There's just like
I was about to say, wait, I was just like, wait, is that supposed to be snow or fog? Oh no, there's just no floor at all.
Yeah, that's just a skybox. But yeah, because some of these are like really early.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so some of these we finally started getting some of the like overgrown stuff and be able to get in a lot of the. I did a lot of work with the stuff we did for the grass and the foliage on Sol was a lot more restrained, and so I got to go kind of crazy. A lot of it was already built before I came on, so I didn't have to really worry about it on Sol. We just kind of like these are your grass options, and so I had to learn the system and everything because. Like we only had, I think, one person that really knew the system. So I was like, okay, I'm learning a lot of things from scratch and learning out about performance and whatnot and trying to make sure that I didn't end up blowing any of our budgets.
Right. Yeah, I was about to ask something about the grass and it just slipped right out of my head.
Don't teabag in it?
Oh, right, yeah, the ESRB don't like that at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was a story we've told before. Specifically, when our previous video editor was here, Alex, he would talk about some. They would be working on like a trailer for SR2, I believe, and the ESRB would look at it and come back and say like, "Hey, you can't do X things for a public trailer." And one of the things was like you could teabag, but you couldn't do the like teabag taunt while you were standing on grass. So you had to do it on the sidewalk. No idea.
Like, okay.
I was going to ask for, like, there's some areas in Sol where you can see it, like, there's, like, little decals or they might be a little polygonal, but if they are, they're very low poly, of just, like, litter or trash on the ground in some places. Are those all hand-placed, or is there, like, some type of system that can kind of come in and, like, help with that?
Some of it's actually handled by a undergrowth system. Like the grass and everything that we have is part of what we call the undergrowth, and some of the trash is actually in there. And so we can actually go in there and paint that into certain spots. But sometimes if we're wanting something like very specific, we'll go in there and hand place it. So it's a little bit of, if you want something sparse and just sort of like noise, then you can use the undergrowth system for that. But if you're wanting something a lot more deliberate, a lot more intentional, it's a lot more hand placed.
Yeah, because that's something I wonder with a lot of games now, because I know with every generation of games, more and more advanced tools get made, and a lot of stuff can help things at least be partially like automated, at least for when you're first starting out. So every time I like see something that's really nice looking, I'm like, was that automated, or was that all hand? Like, because sometimes it's really hard to like, think something looks so good and it was like at least partially done like automatically by a system.
Yeah, we have a lot that helps us along with that.
Yeah.
The undergrowth is one of them where, hey, if we just quickly need to get some grass in, we just quickly do a fill on the entire ground, and it's like, okay, you have grass now.
Yeah.
Or you have rocks and you have trash, and that'll get you. That's one reason why we can move quickly in some things. Like when we're doing this stuff, we can move pretty quickly because we have a lot of that pre-made, and it just procedurally will spawn what we need based off of the rule sets.
Okay.
We've reached the end.
Oh, is that the last one? Okay.
Yeah.
We have a couple more videos that we can bring up quickly here too.
Yeah.
So.
I realize we're starting to run low on time. So
it's fine. If we have to go over a bit, it's also fun.
I wanted to at least be able to go through them.
Yeah. So can you hit enter for me so we can hopefully just play all of these in one go here?
Yeah.
But
these are more early prototypes.
Yeah.
This one didn't end up making it into the mission, but I liked the idea of essentially sort of like Sky Bridge, where it's going through the forest.
Yeah.
So I was doing some prototypes for that, and you'd be able to go through here and platform and jump through some of the places that were broken, and it just had a kind of nice sort of feel of being surrounded by the canopy of the trees, and then when you would be somewhere around the broken area, you could also look to your left in relation to this and see Seoul.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I was actually just wondering if like you would actually be able to see Seoul from here if you were like too high up or there was too many trees that would block the view or something.
That was one of our intentions.
Okay.
That we there was going to be, I think, 2 or 3 designated vistas that we wanted to do, and one of them was we wanted to be able to basically seat you in the world and let you kind of know distance-wise where you were in relations to Seoul, because you're supposed to be in the area just up in the mountains, and so the end version that we stopped on, I believe it was the start location. You'd be able to like turn around and see down below you in all of the valleys of the mountains. You'd be able to see the actual city down there.
Right. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, it's just wild. Like, I haven't seen any of the DLC stuff for AOM in so long. It's really crazy, like, looking at this stuff again.
Yeah, you may want to skip through some of this because it's really slow.
Oh, it's super slow. Oh, wow, yeah, this is a long video.
Yeah.
Look at that. All right.
Yeah, you can probably jump around pretty easily because it's just, like, this stuff ended up in a iteration in the final version, just not this one. They liked the idea of the open area where there's, like, the surrounding the walls and pass through. So that stuff made it in, just not in this configuration.
Right. Yeah, it's really crazy how, like, when you have skilled people, like, how different of an environment you can make with, like, very similar assets, like, as long as you use them, like, smart.
Yeah, that was the strength of our tools. Like, all these were used to build the Temple Fortress that's over in the southeast corner of Seoul, and I just went in there and repurposed them for a rundown vibe.
Yeah. Something I'm curious about, when specifically working on, like, the city, you're making buildings and stuff. I believe our tools work this way, but again, like, I don't get to see some of these tools super often. But in AOM, when you were, like, building buildings, was it like a kind of like a building block style thing where it's like, oh, I wanted to make this type of building X stories high? Is it like 1, 2, 3, 4 like that, or is it more like each building is like its own specific model?
With the way our tools work, it's stacked up, so like you'll build each floor as they are, and then you can customize them. So the ground floor is made of a string of assets. And then we can stack them up and we can swap them out for different types.
Oh, okay.
Don't know if we want to get super technical because I can go on a long spiel and toss out a lot of words that are basically proprietary. Like other artists will probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But we use them in a very specific way here. That's like, okay, like these things in some way have no meaning unless you work here.
Yeah. But yeah, that was how I thought it worked. Where it's kind of like a kit of different pieces that you can like swap between, right? It's like more modular, I suppose is the word.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
These pieces here, if you went into Seoul, you'd be able to find everything that makes up these buildings in there.
Okay.
And we just rearranged them in new configurations.
That's really cool. Was there like a more basic system of that back for like SR2, do you know? Or was it more...
SR2, no. SR2,
that's what I thought.
SR2 was solely built in Max.
Right, yeah, it was just Max. That's right. God,
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine how long it would take to build out the open world. Because, I mean, I'm sure each like streamable section was like its own model, and it wasn't just one gigantic thing.
Right, yeah. Each zone for SR1 and SR2 were separate Max files, and I think they had additional files for like, okay, this is the prop file for this zone. And
okay.
I don't know how much stratification they had there, but I know that they had at least a couple of files just for pure management and loading of so much data.
Yeah.
Here, once we started 3 and on, we had built our own editor that managed all that for us, so we didn't have to build it in Max.
Okay, that sounds like it probably saved a lot of time.
Yes. It also just sort of speeds you up, because once you have the kit and suite together,
Right.
you can move shockingly fast.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, we have a couple more. Now we showed the temple, this mountain pass. We still have yet to show, but
Oh yeah, this was before we had a mission layout. This was, we knew we needed 2 or 3 different environment biomes.
yeah,
And so one of them was, okay, like the mountain path, the village, and eventually the temple.
okay,
This part didn't have the temple, but this had the mountain path. This was for us to problem solve, like, okay, if we're going to do this, how do we make sure, since it's supposed to be a linear path, what do we use to box in the player to make sure that they can't escape, and how do we fill in those spaces to make sure they also can't see out.
right, okay.
I think Abram has an ugly mode. I'm pretty sure. It may not.
Oh yeah, unknown username 12 asking if there's an r_ugly mode, which is a command we've shown for 2 and 3 in our break the builds in the past. But yeah, it just removes like a lot of graphical effects. There's no lighting, so everything's full bright. And it's it seems like a very useful command when like the game isn't optimized yet, and sometimes you're like, oh, I just need the game to run better for what I'm testing or whatever. You just switch a button. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, you can see Soul over there. That's really cool. It's neat.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure we had that payoff somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, I framed it such that you'd be able to see it through some of the mountain peaks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really neat. We have another question from Feared Symmetry asking, what's your favorite environment to have worked on and least favorite?
I think the construction on A1 was definitely my favorite, because I got to have a blast with that, and just like, okay, we're gonna have some fun and make some platforming and just go crazy, because I didn't really have anyone telling me what I could and couldn't do for the most part. Like, they would review my work and make sure that I was hitting within the direction and making sure that everything held up to what they wanted. But otherwise, like, they didn't say like it has to be this. It was just, you have to make half of it construction, basically.
Yeah.
And so I had no sort of guidelines on that, and so I just got carte blanche to do whatever I wanted.
That's nice. That's freedom right there.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure most people in my position of being like entry level like that probably wouldn't be given that sort of freedom.
Yeah. Sometimes
especially
it's nice
for a AAA project.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like, I just need direction so I know what I can do, just go.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I think in like most AAA projects, you probably would have been like, you're doing this little thing here, or like you're doing this grunt work or something.
yeah.
It kind of in some ways felt like that kind of like indie thing where like you just get to like have fun and do things. It wasn't the case like, okay, we had 200 people working on a project, but it was just sort of like, okay, like we're sort of a ragtag group of EAs that just have to get all the stuff done.
Yeah.
In terms of like the least favorite, like since I really have a whim to really sort of go on, like unfortunately I had a blast with a lot of that stuff. So like the things that were sort of less fun were like when I was trying to kind of fill out the ground space. When we're doing the work for polishing, there was one area that I really wanted to do that I didn't get to. So I don't like it as much as some of the other spaces. Is there's going to be the main strip through the modern district, and I wanted to really sort of glitz that space up to actually make it feel like this is where the main shopping is happening, where all of the pedestrians would, like, you'd see all of the people coming here to go shopping and whatnot. You get that really sort of like, okay, you go down like Times Square or whatever the equivalent, and like you go down to like Gangnam District in Seoul, like you get this full sort of commercialization kind of feel. And I really wanted to get that, and I just ran out of time.
It's a bummer.
So it was something that I had like backburnered of, like, if we can get to it, go and do it. If not, like, we live with it. So
yeah. All right. Well, it's it's almost 5:15 actually, so I guess it's time to start wrapping up. But one thing we do with a lot of people who come on for these Dev Talk streams is kind of just talk about, like, what do you do outside of work? What games are you playing? So what games are you playing, Chris?
What games am I playing? Let's see. Well, I'm always playing Final Fantasy 14.
Oh, yeah. We talk about that a good amount.
Yeah, I got you into it.
Yeah, you got me into Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, because it's an MMO, so it technically never ends until they turn off the service.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's my, like, okay, I'm going to spend an hour in that. I'm going to then after that, I go and do other things. And so, since Christmas just came by, I picked up a handful of new games, and I was finishing some other ones, so I finally was able to get a playable copy of Master of Orion 2 because they finally uploaded it to Steam with DOSBox, and so it's like, okay, I can finally play this because, like, that was one of the games from my childhood. I played that back on, like, the MS-DOS days and the CD-ROM days. Well, actually, that I think might have been before CD-ROMs, but yeah, I really loved playing Master of Orion 2 a lot, so I put in a handful of hours on that. And been playing, like, Kingdom, Two Crowns, and I've been trying to go and pick up Tales of Vesperia because they finally released the 360. Well, actually, technically, it's actually the PS3 version after. They finally released that one in the U.S. on the PS4, and so I've been wanting to get back to that, and then I haven't picked it up because I've just been trying to wait until I have time to consume it in a bingeable sort of state.
Yeah, and you're specifically, like, a very big JRPG person.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
My entire library is, like, pretty much nothing but JRPGs.
Yeah. I think you told me before how many you think you've, like, completed. Do you still have that number?
Oh, I have an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of.
Nice.
I have, at this point, probably completed, because I haven't updated it recently, I think 115 or so.
Oh, wow.
And I have over 200.
Yeah. Man, I wonder how many JRPGs I've been. Probably not nearly that. Probably maybe 24 at most. Maybe. If we put in replays, definitely.
I mean, I've replayed, like, Final Fantasy 9 like 20 times.
Yeah.
And I've replayed 10 like 10 times and stuff. So I was like, okay, yeah, I've played that one a bunch. Like, go play that one for like 12 hours or 20 or whatever to, like, rebeat it.
Yeah, and you're specifically, like, a person who tries to go in and, like, 100% them, too, right? Sometimes?
I used to do
Used
that.
to? Okay.
Like, now that I have a full-time job that often crunches, I can't do that. Like, for a lot of times, especially for the games I really, really enjoyed, what I would do is I'd play it naturally once, and then I'd go back and do 100% afterwards. Sometimes, if it was possible, in the same playthrough. Otherwise, I'd do, like, a restart. So for Final Fantasy, I'd just do, like, a regular run-through, just enjoy the game however I want, and then I would restart and do 100% run afterwards.
A lot of Final Fantasies have missables in them, and this, like, ever since, like...
They've gotten better.
They've gotten better, for sure. Unknown username 12 is asking me what I'm playing. So there's a couple really big releases that I'm really looking forward to this year, and I've been trying to, like...
prep for them.
Prep for them, or at least distract myself so the wait for them doesn't seem as painfully long. But they got delayed. Yes. So I have more time now. Probably the biggest thing I've been looking forward to is the Final Fantasy VII Remake, but that got delayed by like 5 weeks, which
isn't too bad.
That's not bad, but that's actually good for me because Luis, who we've had on the stream a couple times in the past, he's really into Kingdom Hearts. And they're actually putting out like a really big DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3 in just a couple weeks, like 2 weeks from now.
I thought it was a week.
Is it a week?
Isn't it like the 23rd?
Oh, maybe. It might be next week then.
Yeah, because I am going to get it. I just keep forgetting that it's coming up so soon.
Yeah, it's snuck up on me. So it's like, okay, Kingdom Hearts is really wacky, but like I really liked them as a kid, and I still enjoy playing them a lot too. Yeah. So
3 was just it was okay, I wouldn't say it was disappointing. It was just sort of like you could have done better.
Yeah, I know that there was a lot of things that were like, oh, they had to cut that or they just couldn't get to it. But it sounds like hopefully this big update they're doing addresses a lot of those complaints.
Yeah, I'm very curious because they haven't really been very clear about how Remind is going to sort of interact with the main game. Like for me, I'm mostly wanting to find out because they're like, okay, we're going to start touching in on that secret stuff that we gave you at the very end.
Yeah, like I know like a big chunk of the DLC is like post, like after the ending, like new story stuff. But I know they're also adding in, sprinkling new cutscenes throughout the game. And there's more playable characters.
I'm going to assume it's going to be integrated in where, I don't know how, because you can't switch characters. Like, because if there are any like character changes in 3, like, they make them for you.
Yeah.
But if suddenly you'll be able to, like, in a thing where there's, like, 3 people fighting, do you get to, like, suddenly get to pick and, like, do a Final Fantasy 15? Like, I'm going to jump over to
just switch over to them. Yeah, who knows? I'm really interested in that, but I'm really behind on the series. I never played more beyond than, like, the first of 3 stories of Birth by Sleep, so I'm on the 3rd of those now. And then I have to play a couple more of those, and then by the time I get around to 3, like DLC will already be out for like a month or so. But because Final Fantasy VII got delayed, I have an extra 5 weeks to get through all of that, and I can probably do that. And then just yesterday we were talking about. I was testing stuff here, and I was just like, oh, Final Fantasy VII got delayed, but it's not that bad. It's only 5 more weeks, whatever. And then we were talking about Cyberpunk, and I was just like, you know what? I bet Cyberpunk's probably going to get delayed. And it got delayed today!
Yep, I was waiting for it.
Oh, man.
Because I was like, okay, I'm probably going to get Cyberpunk, but it's now like 1 week apart from before today. Like, 7.
It was like Resident Evil, then Final Fantasy, and then Cyberpunk all within 3 weeks of each other.
Yeah, and The Last of Us is somewhere in there as well.
The Last of Us comes out in like May, I think, and then like
pushed back.
And then there's Neo 2, which is a little bit before all those releases too, I think, in
and so
February.
Cyberpunk, thankfully, is out in September now, so I was like, okay, like
if
I'm
going to play
it, I don't really have to worry about it. The only thing I might have to worry about is if they release an Atelier game during there,
because those games come out a lot, so
they're basically a yearly franchise. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah. Also, Feared Symmetry has asked me if I played Secret of Mana, and I have. I rented it a lot as a kid and never quite beat it because action RPGs were very foreign to me when I was 5 or 6 years old. But I actually played through the whole thing.
Is that the Seiken Densetsu 3?
That's 2.
Yeah, okay.
Densetsu 3 never came out to the West until they put out that HD collection last year.
So, because I played 2 then, I guess, during SR2. Someone had it, and they were like, you gotta play this. It's a lot of fun. It's like a 3-player co-op.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one I played.
Yeah. But yeah, I played through Secret of Mana. It's like... It's good, but it's also like really old, and I understand why people like the main thing being like, oh, it's an action RPG. You hit somebody, numbers pop up over their head because they took damage, but like your weapon does more damage if you wait for it to charge up. So it's like swipe, and also like every time you hit enemies, they very frequently get knocked down, and when they're knocked down, they're invulnerable until they get back up. So it's like swipe, wait for the B to get up.
Very Dark Souls.
And so that kind of is a weird rhythm that's not the greatest. Yeah. And also it's like very grind heavy if you want your magic to level up your magic, and you do because it annihilates bosses.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I had like it was the first time I think first time I had played it, and I think the other 2 that I played with, they had already played it. Definitely the one was one of the guys, Josh Stafford, he's like you'll really enjoy it. He was the one that was kind of like guiding me through, and I think the other guy that we played with had already played it too. So I was a new person, just sort of like getting introduced. So they were helping me. Like I think I was magic focused.
Okay.
And they had whatever they were doing, and so like I remember like doing specific sort of grinding for different things, and magic being like just obliterating stuff.
At least the healing magic was the easiest to level up because you could just stand right outside and cast it, because you didn't need to be in combat to cast it, so you just cast it until you're out of MP, rest of the come back out, cast it 10 more times. Oh man, I did that for a couple hours.
We didn't go that grindy.
Yeah.
But we were always looking for multiplayer games to play during
Yeah.
SO2, and so like that was a good one. And
Okay.
we had the DS Crystal Chronicles.
Oh yeah. I never
then-
got to play that one.
And then after that, I was like, we got to play one of mine, and so it was the Champions of Norath.
Oh okay, yeah.
Because it was 4-player co-op.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, if anyone here is going to play Secret of Mana, just go into mind that it's kind of an older feeling game, but the music is still really good in that game.
Yeah.
This game's got a great soundtrack.
Yeah, as long as you don't mind playing something that looks like basically Chrono Trigger.
Oh, yeah, it also looks very similar to Chrono Trigger.
It's like, yeah, because as long as you don't mind that, sprites and whatnot, it's
yeah,
it's really
they
good.
also did a remake of that last year on PS4 and a bunch of other platforms, but I don't know. It doesn't look as nice to me. I don't know. It's just like kind of more like sterile looking 3D models, and I don't think it looks as good as the pixel art. But I don't know. Is it easier to get your hands on it that way? I guess.
True. Yeah, there's a certain charm to pixel.
Yeah, totally. I still like a lot of pixel art stuff as long as it's done right. Yeah. Oh man, it's almost 5:30 at this point. Are you playing anything else, real quick?
Let's see. Like I'm kind of trying to like keep myself waiting for 7 and stuff. So I haven't been trying to start new things.
Okay.
But
yeah.
I've been wanting to get into the Legend of the Heroes, which is the Trails in the Sky and the Trails of Cold Steel series.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone that I've been seeing is like, the story kind of continues from Skies into Steel. So it's like, because I have all Steel, and I had picked up, I think, the PS Vita or PSP version of Trails in the Skies, but then like they're all available on PC. So over Christmas, like they were on sale. So okay, I'll buy all of those. And I've been trying to convince myself if I want to start that, because they're like 60. Each one's like a 60 or 80 hour RPG.
Yeah. That's the curse of having a full-time job, is just like, do I start the 60-hour thing now, or do I wait until...
Well,
do I want to hurt myself?
Well, it's certainly not a case of job. Like,
yeah.
Like for me, like if I'm gonna do it, like I'll do it. Like
okay.
When I play 7, I will beat it in a week.
Yeah. I mean, me too, maybe, but that's also because I'm. Now that the upside to it being delayed is now the new fiscal year for us comes, so it's like, oh, all our PTO's here. I'm going to take a day off for a video game.
Yeah, no. So
if it's not busy, at least.
Yeah,
but
Curry had taken a week for it originally, and then he got it canceled.
Got to move it, yeah.
But now it's coming out on a Friday.
Yeah, it's coming out on a Friday, so it's yeah.
But
I almost prefer that.
Yeah, for me, it's mostly just making sure that I don't have any other competition. So because 7 is on the horizon, and I don't want to like start something that I would then have to stop, because that happened to like I was playing Dark Souls 2, and then another game came out that I really wanted to play, and I never actually finished Dark Souls 2 until recently.
Oh geez.
Because I just like got onto other things.
I have a lot of games where it's like it stops in the middle. It's like I can't go back to that. I don't know. I need to start from the beginning again. That's what happened to me 3 times with The Witcher 3. Really bad game for that to happen on.
Yeah, I'm halfway in the middle of Witcher 1.
Oh geez, it's been a long time since I played that one. But
yeah, I was on a roll on it, and then I took a break, and I can't remember I remember what was going on, but I can't remember like which is the quest I need to pick up to keep the story going forward.
Oh man.
But yeah, no. Unfortunately, now like it's mostly like I'm kind of obsessed with 14 right now, because Shadowbringers is just flat out amazing.
It's multiple expansions behind, so it's gonna be forever before I'm playing that stuff. But
yeah, it stands up there with the other Final Fantasy games.
Yeah, it's really great. But oh man, it's almost definitely 5:30 now, so we really got to wrap up. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching. We'll be doing more dev talks in the future as well, getting some people on different areas that may not have had a lot of representation yet, because it's one of my favorite things to do in these streams is have people come on and talk about what they do here and how kind of just how the game industry works, because a lot of that stuff is very opaque to the general public.
Yeah, it's like, let's pull the curtains out.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing to do here with these streams. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. If you want to see some of our earlier dev talks or the Break the Build stuff I mentioned in the past, all of our streams are up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/VolitionTube. If you want to know, when things happening for us, either project-wise or just any other interesting news with our studio, we are on Twitter @DSVolition. We are also on Facebook It's just Volition. Is it Volition or is it DS Volition on Facebook?
Volition Games.
Volition Games on Facebook. That's right.
Yeah, they're all linked on our description.
Yeah. But yeah, and we stream pretty much every Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific. And yeah, again, I'm Josh Stinson, the video editor here. Today we had
Chris Dubois.
and we had Mike controlling stuff in the corner over there and answering chat. Send me questions, all that. Thanks, Mike. And yeah, we will see you next week with some more cool stuff. Later, everybody.
Thank you.
Later.